If you weren't here yesterday, we were making our list of pop culture, I don't want to say topics necessarily, but kind of looking at events, topics, things that are relevant in today's society. And I'll kind of show you a list here that we came up with. Reminder-wise, remember the big thing's going to be for Friday, logical fallacy and also core concepts. Core concepts being those four things that we were looking at beginning of the year so far as convincing the judges know the argument. So for your quiz on Friday, it's going to be matching where you'll have 10 of the logical fallacies, and then you have to be able to write what those four core concepts are for winning a debate. You would just simply write that one out. Last night, via Remind, I sent out a link to Quizlet that has all the logical fallacies on there. So if you're a Quizlet fan, you like doing the flashcards and that kind of stuff, all the logical fallacies are preloaded. There were 16 of them, so it's not narrowed down to only the 10 that would be on the quiz, but they're all on there. And then, simply a way to kind of review and look over those things. But that's for you to use as you choose. Not any kind of requirement for you to log on or anything like that. But so for Friday's quiz, take a look at 14 points, 1 point for each logical fallacy where you're matching up, and then the core concepts. Remember, for the logical fallacies, you're not matching up a definition, but there's going to be an example, and you would have to go, that's a false analogy, that's straw man, Texas sharpshooter. So certainly knowing the fallacy is important, but the main thing is, can you recognize when it is getting used? So if you're strictly memorizing definitions, you might still have a little bit of a panic attack, but okay, what does the definition actually mean? Then take a look to see how it's actually getting kind of utilized within the example. And then at that point, you should be okay. So yesterday, and I know a fair number of you guys were out, we made a big list that Ryan was able to read all word for word for us from the very back of the room. Aaron, can you read? Well, you can't even see that yet. There we go. That's what we did yesterday, Aaron. It's all right there for you. Just feel free to write it down, and you'll be good. But we made a pretty significant list of stuff that was kind of going on in the world. Some pretty serious, some, maybe not quite as serious. But we then kind of narrowed it down to 5 things that we really wanted to possibly look at in a little bit more detail. So we have the Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter movements, marijuana legalization, Muslim immigration ban, college tuition, the expense of it, and then also the whole idea about sugar taxes on drinks and things of that nature. Where this is going is, and I'm hoping that by the end of today, we can have 4 topics and at least 4 ideas so far as resolutions that you would be researching then in detail. And starting next Friday, we would start doing spar debates for it. So we'd still pull names the way that we did before. Jake's name comes up, Martin's name comes up. And then we would pull topics. And it would be the same thing, 2 topics would get selected, you pick one, and then you go affirmative, negative. But the main change is you know what the topics are in advance by these 4 resolutions that we would be coming up. So whereas before when you were doing buttons versus zippers, flip-flops, regular shoes, should you walk on escalators, not walk on escalators, you didn't have any idea what your topics were going to be in advance. So you didn't really have any notes, planning, preparation for it. For this one, you do have notes, planning, preparation for it. So theoretically, Jake finds out which topic he's doing. He can turn to his page of notes, got my ideas, and boom, you're ready to go. The setup of the debates will be the same thing. You'll go back and forth, but it'll be slightly longer. Last time we did 60 seconds and 30 seconds. We're going to go 90 seconds and 45 for the simple fact that you already know in advance what the topics are, and you have the ability to kind of come up with a little bit more detailed information for it than you were able to before.
On the list, did you guys include Harambe?
We did in the fall semester, but we did not yesterday. One of the, I think one of the topics we actually did for one of the classes, because I had a couple sections running last semester, one of the topics that we did was we placed too much emphasis on the lives of animals. So, but yeah, that has come up before.
Was Trump a like third option or like 3,000 votes or something for Harambe?
Mm-hmm.
At least
I think I could have run for president and got like 3 votes, but I didn't. I still might have gotten 3 votes for all I know. Jake? So they were possibilities. So what we did is we just did write down 10 things that kind of come to mind when you think of pop culture. So in theory, yes, But no, we're not doing a spar debate about, Beyonce. Is she having? Do you think she'll have one boy and one girl, or two girls or two boys, or anything like that? At least I don't think we're going to be spar debating that one. But that was kind of our, let's just throw stuff on the wall. And then we went through the list and started highlighting things that we had a little bit more interest in. And that's where we then came to these 5 things that we had. Yesterday, end of class, we were kind of going a little bit more detail about the sugar tax. I wanted to verify what it is because I told you I couldn't remember how much it was per ounce. It's actually 1.5 cents per ounce. So if you were to get a gallon of sweet tea, you're Mr. Heil and you need to get your Turner sweet tea for a gallon. On December the 31st, it costs $1.77. Starting January 1st, so a little over a month ago, it went to $3.69. A 12-pack of Coke before might have been $5.58. Now it would be running $7.74. So it's any drink that has a sugar-based sweetener added to it. So it could be high fructose corn syrup, could be real sugar, could be sweet and low type stuff. If it is a natural sugar that is not added to the drink, orange juice, apple juice, those things do not get taxed. But if you need a can of Monster every day to get going, Gatorade would have the additional tax placed because there's additional sweeteners that are put into it, sugar-based sweeteners. All of those drinks would be taxed. But if it's a natural sugar that's already within the fruit, it's 100% fruit juice, then it would be okay. Kool-Aid, Capri Suns, those kinds of things, those would all get the tax on it as well. So, and that's Philadelphia that we're talking about, 1.5 ounces. And Joseph, it was France that was no longer doing the free refills at McDonald's, Arby's, Novas that no longer exist at Tuesday, by the way. So, those are big things. So, for those who were not here, or those who were here, before we start kind of really focusing on these 5 things, sugar tax, college tuition, immigration ban, marijuana legalization, and then up at the top with the, Black Lives, Blue Lives Matter movements, were there any other things that after class you were going, ooh, that's what I want to talk about?
Maybe like college sports versus pro sports or something.
And you said versus pro sports?
Yeah.
Like, which one's more entertaining, or?
Or like which one's like better? I don't know if we could do that, but.
Okay. And what I do like about the things that we already have up here, and then this would also kind of go into that category, or into that same pro, they're all very different, where we don't have 5 political arguments or anything like that. Anytime you also, I'll put college versus pro athletics. Anytime you get involved with athletics in today's world, certainly concussions end up becoming a big thing. There are movements that there should be no tackle football or contact sports for things like before 9th grade. A couple of years ago, we went down to a debate at Pitt where they were arguing that it should be flag football all through age groups until like 9th grade, or some were even going a little bit later. And a lot of arguments certainly exist that college athletics, big time college athletics, football, basketball, it's not really student athlete anymore. It's more athlete minor leagues that are getting used by NBA, NFL, and the whole academic part maybe has been kind of removed from it a little bit. Martin, was your hand up? Or?
Yeah. Video games.
The Pac-Man inventor, I think, died. What about video games?
That's a really easy topic to argue about.
In what way?
Like to have an argument over.
What's our argument going to be?
Oh, so we're taking a stance. You can either argue that video games inhibit education and and development, or you could argue that they promote development.
Certainly, you get, depending on like the violence aspect, kind of gets mentioned as well, and that could kind of be part of that development.
Then you can get into like psychology.
Do you guys have I don't know, every school district calls it something different, but elementary school, like rocket math or mad minute math, where you have to do like a whole bunch of math problems within a minute?
Third grade.
What do North Hills, what did we call it?
Mad minutes.
Mad minute?
Based on bad minutes.
Okay.
Start with the addition.
Addie, who goes to the Evil Empire, known as the University of North Allegheny, they do rocket math, which is the same thing. So she has 40 problems to do in a minute. And so it was addition, subtraction, now there's multiplication, division, all that kind of stuff. Fraction started yesterday. Her life is about to get rocked. Third. Math is so weird. They're doing algebra. Like they don't say it's algebra, but the way that it's nuts. It's interesting though, in a weird way. The University of North Carolina. Although we go to the slum school apparently, from what I've been told. So McKnight. Ooh, yeah. Like we go to softball. Oh, you go there. Oh, that's nice. And then they turn and go talk to other people. Classy. But they do rocket math, and she last year she wasn't that great at it. She's gotten better, but then she got math classes switched right before Christmas break, and they don't do rocket math, but they have iPad time where they use what's the name of the program? Reflex math, and so it's still timing. But I get then a report coming in of like how many math facts she has completed over the course of like a day, a week, and you have to be at a certain level. They call it green light, up to a certain percentage amount of the time. She absolutely loves it, and I don't think she would confuse it as a video game. Of hey, let's do reflex math as opposed to I want to play Transformers or something like that on the Wii. But her computation skills have dramatically improved. Is it solely because of the reflex math as a video game? Not 100% convinced by it, but she's a lot more interested in doing that than me sitting there with the timer. Okay, you got a minute, start going, at which point you are pulling teeth. So from that educational development, there certainly can be some merits that would take place. You get arguments about hand-eye coordination, things of that nature. Do you have something else?
Sir, yeah, that's one of the arguments about for video games is that they increase reaction time and critical thinking, and they improve critical thinking. Yeah.
I think she thinks that she can turn into a Mack truck like Optimus Prime though after she plays Transformers for a little bit. We made our Valentine's Day box.
What is it?
Optimus Prime. It looks pretty nice. You're jealous. I can tell. And the advantage is, it's like a big truck, so that's a lot of Valentines that you can fit into into that one. All right, so taking a look then at what we have here, what would be some arguments or ways in which it would make any of these topics debatable? Or since we now have 7 up here, we want to get it down to 4. Are there any where you're going, that's the one that I want to do? For example, and I'm not pushing this one on you by any means, but since we talked about the sugar tax a fair amount yesterday, I would suggest a way of handling that one would be not to simply say that a sugar tax will help reduce obesity or things like that, but I think it would be a little bit more argumentative to go, government has the right, or the government should not have the right to regulate health, well-being, things along that nature. If Aaron wants to drink 12 cans of wild cherry Pepsi, then he has that right to do it to his body. Not like in 1 hour, that would not be good. So for these things up here, are there any that we're going, yep, that's the one that I want?
I have a question. So, when taking a stance, do you expect us to take absolutes? Because I know, for the Muslim/immigration ban, both sides can be argued, but like you can't really take an absolute for either side because it's just both sides have some correct.
I don't.
points.
Well, number one, just to kind of clarify, we will word this into specific resolutions. So it's not going to go, okay, Muslim immigration ban topic, affirmative, negative, and then you pick one. I agree. It's going to be pretty tough to go. The current Muslim immigration ban is good versus the current Muslim immigration thing is bad. Could do something along the lines of it. The current Muslim immigration ban was hastily put together. You could go yes, no. Because one of the arguments that the White House made was if we told you this was going to happen in 2 weeks, then you're basically giving a 2-week window where you would be, in their minds, maybe have more terrorist activity taking place. Right now, there's the whole thing so far as, should Trump have fired Attorney General? As comments made about judge, from Washington, who was not going to uphold the ban. I think those are ways in which you could certainly incorporate the topic without having to go, yes, it's a good thing, no, it's a bad thing. So, and generally speaking, no, I don't think you want to go on absolutes, because once you get into always and never, you're really opening yourself up to weaknesses. But I think part of it kind of depends upon how do we end up wording it. I don't know how likely, if we were to go with your video game one, I don't know how likely we would get for video games are bad, and Luke takes that argument. It's going to be pretty hard to convince a fair amount of people that every single video game has drastic negative effects. If we did something where, video game use of over 2 hours a day causes developmental risks, now that might be something that would be a little bit more fair, debatable. We're not doing It's Raining on Tuesday, February the 7th. I don't really want to take the negative on that one. Although I'd be curious to try, I guess. Luke would take the negative on that one, it's not really raining, it's precipitating.
A way to word for the Muslim immigration ban, I feel, a way to sort of make an argument would be it is necessary for this Muslim immigration ban to go through for national security reasons.
All my classes bleed together right now, and I can't remember what I said to what period on what day. HL or ML Mencken is HL. I'm trying to remember his initials. I think it's HL. Mencken was U.S. historian, philosopher, and paraphrasing, people would rather be safe than free. And that could kind of be an argument that would come along with it, where certainly you're going to have complaints. America, we're melting pot. We're built from, we're based around immigration and things like that. But in the current world in 2017, is safety more important to us than freedom? So again, I think Monica, you were the one who brought up this topic yesterday. I think that still allows for the topic to be incorporated. Going back to your points, but it also gives you a little bit more. I don't want to say wiggle room because that has a negative connotation to it, but gives you a little bit more freedom to incorporate some other ideas with it.
I was saying you could argue this by saying, is it a Muslim ban? Because they came out saying it wasn't a Muslim ban, but it was just an immigration ban.
So like kind of arguing, is it like
Actually, is the immigration ban
okay. Yeah, because we refer to it as being a Muslim ban, but it's based on geographical location that just so happens to have similarly to you look in U.S. history in the South, literacy test, ownership of property of land in order to vote in the South in the 1880s. Was it a ban against African Americans voting? Technically, no. Was the intent to limit African Americans from voting? Yes. So, sure, it could in some ways kind of be a little bit of a semantic argument that would take place. So I would say for any of these things up here, what would be ways in which you would want to kind of like narrow it down and look at something? So for sugar tax, I mentioned, health versus government control. We got college pro athletics, college tuition. Just with these ones that we have, marijuana legalization. I brought up body cameras yesterday. What would kind of be like some encompassing ideas that would go with them?
For college tuition, we could argue whether or not it's reasonable for the government to pay for public colleges.
Or at least maybe offer more assistance to it. There certainly used to be a lot more assistance that was going in 20, 30 years ago. That has certainly changed quite a bit. Some folks would argue that schools are purposely even kind of manipulating maybe schedules in some ways, where if Jess doesn't get that intro to speech class spring semester sophomore year, that cycle is not going to come around again until year number 5, and she needs that class to graduate. So what do you know? She's now paying for 4.5 years instead of 4 years. You folks are in a CHS class. So a lot of you are going to be looking to get college credit for it. A lot of you have AP credits. It used to be, back in the good old days, if you had a 3 or higher, you were getting credit for that AP exam. Thank goodness I did not have to take math in high school. Thank you, AP Calc Test. Now, well, we'll give you the 5, maybe a 4. You can take 2 of the AP credit, 6 credits total, but we're not going to give you credit for all of them. So you could certainly maybe argue that they're doing things in order to still have you pay more money. You could argue as colleges, and this would be college tuition based, but is college more about business or
Education.
what's that? You mean like learning stuff? Which do they put a priority on? That could kind of be an argument that would take place with it. What else are we thinking here? Oops. Anything about athletics, college, pro, even through in high school? Right.
Should college students be paid more?
And that becomes dicey because some folks will argue they are being paid. They're getting scholarship. Also, okay, if you play football at Pitt, do you then get a $5,000 stipend in addition to scholarship? But what if you're on the swim team at Pitt, or the field hockey team at Pitt, or the rugby team at Pitt? Is that entitled to the same stipend income as football, basketball, what people kind of think as being the power sports? But yeah, tuition payment stipend would be good. LeBron James, like your roommate, you could kind of, he might buy pizza. He might be able to spot you a couple bucks here and there. Maybe not.
The topic you do for college athletics is like distribution of the money they have for it in colleges and sports. So like, I know there's like a little someone who like, football gets a lot out of schools and tradition
This is a little bit dated because this is probably going back 3 or 4 years ago. The amount of profitable football programs among power conferences was not nearly as high as people were expecting. Penn State makes money. Texas makes money. Alabama makes money. At the time, Pitt not making money. Western Michigan not making money. And a lot of it had to do with not necessarily just salaries for coaches and things like that, but had to do with what's the hope for just about every football team? assuming you're not going to win the national championship, but you still want to go to a bowl game. Hey, we get to play on like December the 27th in the Meineke Tire Car Care.com / Sir Pizza / Papa John's Subway cereal bowl game on ESPN 12 at 3:45 in the morning. The problem with it was that schools are responsible for purchasing so many tickets. And if Jake does not buy the Akron Zip ticket to go to that game, because who wouldn't want to go to Detroit on December the 27th at 3:15 in the morning to watch Akron take on Idaho State in whatever bowl game I just listed? The school's on the hook then to pay for that. And so a lot of schools were losing money by going to bowl games because of the amount of money that they had to put in for it. So yeah, distribution of funds. It could go down to sport. Certainly you have Title IX when it comes to scholarships and dealing with gender. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that could certainly go on there with the distribution of funds. And you could certainly argue, there's too much money just in general for the school budget, not just the athletic department budget. Kind of end up going into that. Luke, was your hand up again for something? No? Okay. It's not raining outside. You don't have a counter argument?
Sky's dripping.
Okay. That's good. Anything for marijuana legalization?
You could look at the balance between, what helps the individual, like medically, and how it inhibits or negatively affects the individual.
Okay. So,
Pros, cons.
positive versus negative effects. The whole question about it being a gateway drug. That used to be the main reason against it. That's kind of a little bit of argument now. Aaron?
Medical versus recreational.
And I think when we mentioned this one yesterday, we were kind of thinking as recreational, but that still could be a way to kind of still debate a little bit more. Did your hand go up? Okay. Mike?
Not properly regulated.
So for like distribution, okay, yeah. Age, distribution centers. One of the pros that people look at it is tax money. Is that something that would actually work well in the long run?
Alcohol.
Especially in Allegheny County, because Allegheny County has extra alcohol taxes that others don't. I blew away my 7th period yesterday because they asked, why are soft drinks called soft drinks? I said, because alcohol is referred to as hard drinks. They are non-alcoholic, they're soft drinks. Wow. I totally made up that answer, but Meredith was there. They seemed to think that was a pretty good answer, so I'm sticking to it. Makes sense. I might be right.
I feel like that is.
See? You're... Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, body cameras. So yeah, you'd have, all officers would have a camera. And with that one, not to steal away from what Mary was going to say, I think a lot of people in theory like that idea, even not counting, issues that were taking place before. But the main concern becomes the cost, because they certainly are not cheap. And, Pittsburgh, what the entire police force would be, I don't know, but that's going to cost a lot of money. And even if you're in a small town where maybe you only have 10 police officers, that still could be an extra, $500,000 that you might not have ready to equip people. But yeah, it'd be like camera that's right here.
Some people say Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization.
There's only one person who I've heard say that, and he's an idiot.
Did you say he's an idiot?
Yes.
That could be very good.
you're going negative on
Yes.
that one. That would cost, when it does come to body cameras.
How would you argue against it? Because I feel like if anybody were to argue against Black Lives Matter, because
Violence.
yeah, it's very racist to go the opposite way.
Well-
Argue with violence.
Okay, fine.
Well, and in most, and then Sarah, we'll get to you because I know you were the one who brought up the topic in the first place. In a lot of arguments, it really boils down to interpretation of a key term. And I think that would be the same thing like what's going on with the immigration or Muslim ban. What do you view as being terrorism? What constitutes something like that? Certainly, the violence that takes place is significant in a lot of ways. I think that you will certainly get viewpoints where people will dismiss the whole movement just based on stereotypes, preconceived notions, which is probably a nice way of saying racism. I think objectively you're probably not, people would recognize that there's a problem that is taking place. But I would say depending upon location, depending upon race, depending upon personal experience, that's going to go a long way towards is it really a problem? And that's where folks will get into arguments with it. Sarah?
I feel like it's not necessarily people not supporting the movement, it's more of how they're going about it.
Mm-hmm. Like the method
Yeah.
as opposed to the intent. And going along that, so far as the way that people go about supporting it, segment of the population that really comes under fire for how they support or should they support would be celebrities, athletes, are they role models, entertainers. Some people would argue they should get involved in political issues, social issues. Others would go, hey, you're there to play a sport, you're there to entertain, you're not there to get involved into political movements. So that's even kind of a way where our protests that are taking place in the NBA. You take a look at the bathroom laws that were going into effect in North Carolina. NCAA was removing contests from there. ACC tournament's not going to be in North Carolina. NBA removed the All-Star game not to be in North Carolina. So you can certainly argue, are these arenas that should overlap with one another? Meredith, your hand was up.
To what extent will the protests go? Like the degree of how extreme they can be?
And I'm certainly kind of now, taking a look at things that we discussed earlier in class, but, if you've read Martin Luther King, Henry David Thoreau, certainly take the idea of peaceful protest. Does violence help a cause, in extreme situations, Gandhi? Or is it something where if you take that peaceful approach, do you get more of a reaction? You get more people joining your side? That in itself could be a way. Not to dismiss, is there a problem? But the way that you go, the way that it sometimes takes place, is violence ever effective? It's one where I think you could get sides for both, or would a peaceful protest do more? Or if it's a peaceful protest, do you not really pay as much attention to it and just go, oh well, I guess that's a problem. But then you move on with your everyday life.
If you take more alternate stance, you could talk about non-lethal weapons and versus lethal weapons.
For police
Yes.
in general? So tasers and things like that? Yeah, that's an interesting point. Now that we have more ideas taking place, what are ones where you're now thinking in your head, yeah, I like that topic. That's one that I can get some mileage out of. Is that a sugary drink? Boy, that's going to cost you. Steven?
I think talking about protests in general is really good topic.
Okay.
It's not only with Black Lives Matter, but with Trump and other issues. Everybody just decides to protest nowadays. So,
It's it's certainly an argument out there. Do protests mean as much now as maybe they did in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s? Is it almost that you expect there to be a protest for anything? And this is kind of really changing the dynamic of the topic, so we don't have to go this far. Does social media kind of influence that too much, where you'll see a hashtag and yep, okay, but it doesn't maybe carry the weight that it has anymore. So, all right, talk about protests. What else?
Well, on most of Trump's policies, it's pretty simple to take the religious side or against, because they're pretty bad in general.
Depends on a lot of things. In your mind, yes, but you get some arguments against.
For our stance, so.
Well, I'm not asking for stance yet. I'm asking for topics in which we're going, yes, that's one that I would want to take a look at.
The Muslim immigration.
Okay. That's what you were going to go. And I don't mean this as an attack against what Stephen was saying. I don't know if we were to go Muslim immigration ban and taking a look at protests. I feel like there could be a lot of carryover between those two. Would that be two similar topics where we'd kind of have to pick one or the other?
You could group them together, just and have like a protest, or like is violence the answer type of thing.
I mean, I feel like the protest aspect of things is different from like the national security aspect of things, because for the Muslim immigration ban, that would be focusing primarily on the security of the United States, whereas the protest is more of, do protests work, or are they reasonable?
Yeah, I would agree that if you took the angle where you're dealing with national security, that can differentiate them enough.
Didn't the judge reject the ban anyway? So the ban's not even like in place. Like
Let's check back in 72 hours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a total question mark right now. Yes, absolutely.
Is that a hearing today at like 6 or something?
I don't recall. There's too many hearings of everything going on. But yeah,
I think the government versus like the lawyers, they're making their case today at like 6 or something.
might be. Joseph.
I think Black Lives Matter is more of a social issue, and the immigration ban is more of a government issue.
More political. Okay. All right. So far, I'm hearing protests, Black Lives Matter, in some form, shape. Immigration, Muslim ban in some form, shape. Others. Here's my thought. I think sugar tax and college tuition would be two other good ones because they are just very different. All right. Tomorrow when you come in, I'll have some resolutions worded. They're not final, but we can make some adjustments to them. And then we're going to start logging on with laptops and resources that we can start to use.